6:40 p.m. Emily, could you please call roll?
Chair Paul Hughes,
Present.
Vice Chair Gerard Sanchez,
Present.
Board Member Deb Moody, Board Member Wesley Cook.
Here.
Board Member Miguel Espinosa, Board Member Patricia Keough.
Here.
Board Member Henry Stout.
Okay, we'll stand and have a pledge to the
Allegiance to the flag to the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll second it.
Motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is the next item. Approval of the minutes of our last meeting, August 28th, 24, and cases now in compliance. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, are there cases now in compliance?
Yes, Chairman Hughes and members of the board. Starting on page 2, I'm going to read these off, but I'm also going to have Emily show you some photos.
Okay.
So for case 23-0882, they are now in full compliance. The photos that you are now going to view are from the ones I'm going to read off. This is the view of the parking lot now that it's been completely done for all 3 properties. And I think you will be very happy and impressed with it. Case 23-0887 is now in full compliance. Case 23-0890 is in full compliance. And again, if you look at the photos, they actually went above and beyond. So the main part of the road, they even repaved, so all the potholes are now gone.
Eric, when did they come into compliance?
They came into compliance today. They did the repaving, officially completed yesterday. I spoke to Joe, who was the property manager, the one that's come here quite a few times. I spoke with him today. When I went out and took these photos, I contacted Manny, the building inspector. I showed him the photos. He reviewed everything, didn't find there to be any issues, and gave the approval and said that they are now in compliance for the violations.
Okay.
Switching over to page 3 for new cases. Case 24-0284 is in compliance. Case 24-0286 is in compliance. And then on the last page, case 24-0301 is in compliance, and case 24-0314 is in compliance.
Okay.
Yes, we do have people in the audience. They were from one of the cases that was going to be heard tonight, but they came into compliance.
Oh.
But they did want to speak to the board in reference to their neighbor. So if you're okay with them stepping up and speaking now.
Before we go
Wait,
ahead, can you make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Emily.
Should we not have a swearing in prior to them speaking?
Yes.
Disclosure of-
Anyone that wants to or has had personal experiences with any of the cases that, excuse me, come before us tonight, if you would please disclose that at the time of that we take that up on the agenda. We'll have a swearing in of the witnesses for all of those who are going to speak tonight before the Board, if you would please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, is there a reference to any case on the agenda, Eric, that,
So there was a property on Waterway, Mr. James. This property was the one where the pool was in really bad shape, the smells, the odors. These residents that are here at 1820 Arabian Road West are one of the ones who initially made the complaint. They also are the ones who made the complaint about the fence being in a deteriorated state. That one is still not in compliance, and that one is still on a daily fine. The residents from 1820 Arabian Road West did want to bring a few more things to your attention about that property, and we're requesting to speak to the board tonight.
okay, just to make sure we're going to talk about what property,
It should be 8350 Waterway Drive.
188351,
Should be 8350 Waterway Drive.
8350, whatever.
That's the one right next to them.
If these are matters that would end up being a case, you know, with notice violations, probably not appropriate to have comments, you know, prior to the hearing. Certainly you would be welcome to come to a hearing. I mean, if it's not going to be part of a case, I guess you can speak on whatever you want to. But I don't think it'd be fair to the property owner to have somebody come in and sort of present stuff and there's no notice and no ability to be here.
Because 8350 is still an active
Yes.
case, actually.
I believe they wanted to talk about the ongoing case with the fence.
Yeah.
Is that something because it's ongoing, it's on daily fines. They are one of the ones that contacted code enforcement to initially complain about the fence.
It's not on our agenda tonight.
Okay.
Bill?
Yeah, it's not on the agenda. I don't know that it's appropriate to hear, you know, what might be evidence of whatever while there's no notice out to an owner to be
Right.
here.
Okay. Even though their case is in compliance, they also were requesting to talk about their property. Bill, is that something they could
And I
talk?
think they could do that. Yeah, I think you can.
And what property is that?
It's going to be 1820 Arabian Road West. That'll be, give me a second. It'll be the last page.
Last page.
Yes,
Okay.
page 24-0301.
So that the properties come into compliance, but the property owners would like to speak
Yes.
to that case. Okay. Ma'am, would you like to come up and introduce yourself?
Okay. Nathalie Morin, 1820 Arabian Road West.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously I'm getting complaints on my property just stating that there's garbage on my property. Okay, my property is always cleaned every day. I do the best I can when I can because I'm disabled. But the only thing that's back there is stuff for my grandkids. You know, I do have a couple of antique machines that sit underneath the tree and a couple of things up against the fence. Understanding why I'm getting complaints saying that there's garbage in my backyard. And I have pictures of everything that's in my backyard. So I don't understand why we're not allowed to talk about him or his property, but everything's coming back on my property saying that there's garbage on my property, saying that we're not keeping up with it or anything. And that's not true. I've got pictures on my phone that show you that I'm taking care of my property.
Now, you have not been cited for anything like that.
We did get cited. Well, no. We
No,
didn't get cited for anything.
Yeah, you were cited for the tented structure that was over the boat, which did come in as a complaint from Mr. James at 8350 Waterway Drive.
It was there temporarily because we have a mini pirate ship because we're pirate entertainers on the weekends. It was sitting underneath there temporarily. It was not there permanently. We kept it there to keep all the rain and everything off the top of it. That was the only reason why we got cited for that. I mean, this is crazy.
So Eric, have you been invited because onto their property because of the complaints that she's getting?
So Mr. Janes doesn't have direct communications with me. He calls the building department to file his complaints. He's not on cordial speaking terms with me. So as the complaints come in, I still do investigate them. So that's why they were cited, because Mr. James filed a complaint about the tented structure.
Mm-hmm.
It was found to be in violation. The property owners here reached out, said they were going to take care of it, and they did. There's further complaints going on from 8350 Waterway Drive.
So at this point, you don't have any complaint or investigation from the town about these complaints? No.
Not that I'm aware of.
So you're just upset that you're getting these complaints?
Exactly. I mean, is he doing it out of despite? Is he doing it just to do it? I don't understand. I mean, like I said, I got pictures on my phone. I can show you my property, how nice it looks, you know,
Yeah.
how well kept up it is.
Unfortunately, those kind of things happen. And as long as the town doesn't find problems that you might have problems with your neighbors. Unfortunately, you might get complaints from your neighbors, but as long as the town doesn't find violations, that's between you and your neighbor,
I
unfortunately.
understand. But but that was in violation, but he's also in violation of that fence. The fence is disintegrating really quick.
Right.
And beforehand, his fence pushed my fence over. So I don't have the money to get that.
He's being fined daily, right?
Yes, that
He's being fined for the fence. So that's why there's really nothing to be heard on
I
that.
got you.
I mean, we're dealing and have dealt with that property. And unfortunately, you have to deal with having a neighbor next door.
I understand you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you.
You're certainly welcome to stay and listen to anything new. Okay, if there's no objection, we'll deal with page one, fine imposition hearing on Coonan LLC 7926 Pine Tree Lane. Eric?
Yeah, there's not too much new information on this one. All I can tell you is that they did apply for the permit, but there's been no final inspection. So until a final inspection happens and the permits are closed out, the violation still exists.
So what I read here, that in our last meeting, we decided that they must come into compliance by tonight, or a fine of $250 a day may be imposed until compliance achieved. I don't think we said anything about a permit.
Well, it was stucco work that was done without a permit. So in order to come into compliance, they just had to pull a permit for the stucco work that was done. A final inspection would need to be done from the building department, then it could come into compliance. So as of today's date, the violation is still not complied.
Right, it's still not into compliance.
Right.
Anyone?
Do we know if there's a building permit for the addition that they're building on the back of the house?
You know, so because Melissa, who works for the building department, had initially brought this property to my attention. So when I went out there, I had snapped photos. This was before they were even initially cited for the stucco work. Took photos. The property owner had reached out to the building department, and what permits were required to be pulled, they were told about. So I know that they started to pull the permits for the stucco. As for the addition, Emily, do you know?
I was not aware there was an issue with that.
There's, yeah, because I live around the corner and I
Yeah.
walk by the house with my dogs, and there's a pool that they put in and a big addition. Looks like
Okay.
I can reach out to the building department. If you want to give me a call within the next few days, we'll pull it and see. But that property has been, you know, under the microscope a little bit. So I would believe that they're pulling it, but let me give you a definitive answer once I get with the building department.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure, I will. Based on testimony and evidence presented in case number 24-0260, I move that the response be found to have failed to comply with the order finding a violation dated June 19th, 2024. And a fine in the amount of $250 a day be imposed commencing September 25th. And such fine shall continue to accrue at the rate until compliance is achieved.
Is there a second?
No second.
Further discussion?
How long is it going to take for this permit? And then I guess, Eric, what do they do to, after they've done the work?
Well,
How do you really inspect, okay, this was done, but how do you know if it was done right, if it's already all covered up?
I mean, that'd be a question for the building inspector. Stucco work is in major structural, mechanical, or electrical, so I can only assume that it wouldn't require any kind of heavy inspection, but that would be a question for a building inspector. I can get back to you on that one. I can talk to Manny to see what all goes into stucco. They may have to open up a section of it, or maybe they just simply, see the finished product.
Eric, you said you cited them on June 19th. And when was the permit pulled?
The permit wasn't pulled until about a month ago, so it took a while.
It took over 2 months for them to,
The property owner, when this case was initially heard before the board, the property owner, if you recall, wasn't in the country. So I believe it was a family member, whether it was a sister, aunt, or whoever it was. Her name is Gigi. She had relations with that property because she had come into the police department and let me know that, she had let the owner know what was going on. So I'm assuming that because he was out of the country, that's why maybe it took as long as it did. Again, the property owner isn't here, so this is only speculation.
this is a homesteaded property.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Just a thought on that. If it's owned by an LLC, I would question whether it's homestead.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Thank you, Bill. I think the motion carried. Let's see, we'll move on to, I believe, case 24-0291 on page 3, William Greer, Senior.
That is correct. Good evening, board members. This is case number 24-0291. I'm Code Enforcement Officer Eric Richwagon, representing the town of Lake Clark Shores. The site property owner is identified by William F. Gear Senior. Site property address is going to be 1433 Arabian Road East, Lake Clark Shores. On 7/18/2024, a notice of violation was issued for section 34-19 sub 9 sub C. The roof has discoloration and requires cleaning. On 9/13/2024, a notice of hearing was issued. As of today's date, the violation still exists, and the photos are on the screen of the violation that was taken today.
Any communication between July 18th and 9/13?
No, I haven't had any communication with the owners from this property. I always see the same vehicle in the driveway in the same position, so I don't know if there's anyone currently staying there. They may be, snowbirds. They may be out of state. That's only my guess.
Okay. So the property remains in violation.
That's correct.
Okay. Further discussion?
Is that mildew or is it needs to be painted?
No, it needs to be pressure washed. So it's gotten significantly worse since I first cited it, but that's because we've been getting so much rain. Unfortunately, when it comes to white roofs, they look very pretty, but once you start getting heavy discoloration, it shows up very obviously.
I had a white roof, but it was actually, you'll start seeing the concrete if you pressure it clean enough of it. So that's also part of the, might have to paint it. Okay.
I am familiar with that house because my house is directly behind him. He's an older senior. He does live there. He's not
Okay.
out of state or anything.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. Based on the testimony evidence presented in case number 24-0291, I move that the board finds the respondent in violation of sections 34-19 sub 9 sub C of the Town Code of Ordinances. Respondents shall comply with the Town Code of Ordinances on or before, and I guess, let's make it for October 22nd of 2024. If the response failed to comply with this order in a timely fashion, a fine in the amount not to exceed $25 per day may be imposed. A fine assessment hearing will be held on October 23rd, 2024, if necessary.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item would be 240292. Jerry Faulkner and William Faulkner, 1442 Arabian Road.
Correct. Good evening. I'm Code Enforcement Officer Erica Twaggen, representing the town of Lake Clark Shores, case number 24-0292. Site property owners identified by Jerry A. Faulkner and William F. Faulkner. Site property address is 1442 Arabian Road East, Lake Clark Shores. On 7/18/2024, a notice of violation was issued for section 34-19 sub 9 sub C. The roof has discoloration and requires cleaning. On 9/13/2024, a notice of hearing was issued. Let's see, a reinspection of today's date finds that the violation still exists, as you can see in the photos. I have spoken to the owner, Mrs. Faulkner. She does already have the roof scheduled to be cleaned. She wanted to let the board know that she wanted to be here tonight, but due to her medical conditions, she's unable to attend. She is a elderly senior, as she told me to let you guys know. She also did lose her husband, but she's on top of it, and she's just requesting that the board give her a little more time.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be to give it to her because she did show me proof that someone has come out and that they were going to pressure clean it this week, but due to the iffy weather, it may not get done this week. So they were just asking for the extension. I would say, just as you did for the last order, maybe give them until the next code board meeting.
Thank you, Eric. Is there any further discussion?
I guess
Someone like to make a motion?
Well, based on the testimony and evidence presented in case number 24-0292, I move that the respondents be found to have failed to comply with the order finding violation dated July 18th, 2024. Given the evidence presented, I move that the date for compliance be extended to 10/22/2024, and a fine assessment hearing, if necessary, shall be held on 10/23/2024.
I second it.
Jerry, you seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'm not sure I heard that right. Was there a fine to be
No,
imposed?
the motion does not include a fine.
It's a
Then you don't need a fine assessment hearing.
Oh,
Continuance.
It's extending the date for compliance.
Yeah, if you just want to do that, that's fine. But there would not be a fine assessment.
Okay.
Okay. We need to update that.
Well, I'm a little confused because I thought that this motion was only used if the case came before the board before. This is a new case.
Yeah, really, it would be more of a continuance.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Do you want me to?
Would you like to
Take it
withdraw
back?
your motion, and
Yes, I'd like to withdraw the motion.
is there any objection to
None, I did.
the,
Yeah.
no objection to the maker of the
That If you want just a straight continuance, that would be number 6.
Okay. Based on the testimony and evidence presented in case number 24-0292, I move that this board continues this matter until the Code Enforcement Board hearing on 10/23/24.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Is there further discussion now? No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, continue. No, it's okay. I think that's the end of the cases.
Yeah, we had a lot of compliance.
Okay, we'll move on to board comments, suggestions, and updates. Anyone?
First of all, I want to apologize to everyone in this room for causing the delay. Just completely slipped my mind, just to be perfectly honest. So my apologies.
You're allowed to have that happen one time.
It's not right. So I truly am sorry. Thank you, Emily, for reaching out.
Thanks, Jerry.
And number two, I wanted to bring up on Westlake Drive. Eric, I know we've been top. I saw that their roofing company and it's 7730, if I'm correct on the
Yeah.
address.
That's correct.
I'm just, and I guess they're still working on the roof or whatever's going to be done. I'm just more concerned, like, I guess the interior, what's going on with that? Is there anything else that we need to be worried about that property compliance wise, in your opinion?
They're working on the roof. They have the permits pulled. The building inspectors have been made aware that when they do the inspections to, they always do it thoroughly, but just to make sure to double check everything. So as of right now, we're going through the motions. They're pulling the permits. Any permits they decide to pull further, the building department will evaluate it and determine if they have everything needed. And if they do anything that they're not supposed to, code enforcement's here, and I'll cite violations if needed.
Are they planning, when they do apply for permits, would they possibly, or would you guys go over there to actually, when they start working on the interior? Just curious. Do you guys actually physically go to the property, or does the building inspector physically go to the property? Hey, here's a permit. Okay, maybe we need to go over. I don't know. To what extent does a building inspector actually go over?
Yeah, well, are you talking about for the roof?
The roof is done. I don't know if they're planning to do anything else in internal for the home or whatever.
Well,
I noticed that they closed the accordion, but they left it a little bit open
Yes.
with I'm just, it's, I just curious the amount of damage that roof had and everything else. And then obviously you went and visited and you yourself couldn't even go. They opened the front door. You actually had to stand back because of the stench
Yeah.
that came out of that when you opened the front door.
Like rotten water. The good thing is I believe when the building inspector goes to check the roof, they're going to need to check all the points. So if Manny or whichever building inspector goes in there, if they see anything that they see is a violation, they can cite it under the Florida Building Code, or if they see something from a code side, they usually will always take photos of anything they believe might be useful to me and send it to me. So if Manny goes in or whoever goes in, if they see something that may be a code violation, they'll send me photos and I can go off that. Or if they see something specific for the building code section to be cited.
So they would have to go inside, go check in the attic. I'm assuming they got to go look to see that they did the roof properly, right? Or
Yeah, I mean,
whatever the permit stated.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not the building inspector. I've worked with the building department and building inspectors for many years. So just off my experience, my professional opinion from what I've seen when building inspectors go out is that they go out, they check everything thoroughly, because when they sign off for something, that's their signature, that's their license towards it. It's just like when I go out and when I do a reinspection and I say that something isn't compliance, I'm putting my word and I'm legally stating that everything that I see has been done correctly.
Because I guess the biggest concern is black mold, right? Or anything of what happened. So I'm assuming that the building inspector would have to go in, go check the attic. But if he knows there's anything of black mold, or, I mean, that's a health hazard for anybody to walk into. So
Just because no one is mold inspector certified, the term we usually use is a black type substance. So even if you believe it's mold, we still can't call it that because we're not certified. So usually in a situation like that, they would take a photo of it. And then if I believed it warranted further investigation, I could send it to a certified mold inspector and they could make that determination.
now that person, would they have to have access to the house, or would that something, if the inspector notices that, is that something that someone could then say, hey, we have to come in, and they have the legal right of doing it because it was through the building inspector? I'm just curious what the protocol is in a situation.
For
Like that.
this town, I have not had to get to that stage yet when it comes to mold. Previous places that I've worked was different, but I'm not gonna talk about past experiences. For Lake Clark Shores, if it gets to that point, I'll follow up with the town and I'll follow our town protocols and procedures.
Anyone else?
Eric, last meeting, there was a case, and I don't see it, that it was closed. I know we had imposed fines because she hadn't come in compliance. The single woman, I forget what road it was on, it's off.
Travis Road.
Westlake.
Oh, Westlake?
It's off Westlake, one of those back roads off Westlake.
Are you talking about the one where the family member passed away?
No, she had all stuff in her front entry. the
Oh,
front of
yes,
the
yes.
house,
You're
and
talking about on,
It was a
Evergreen.
biohazard.
yes, Miss Maggie Stewart.
Yeah,
She came into compliance. She moved everything from the front, and whether she put it inside or where she put it, it's no longer exposed from the outside. And she did pressure wash the driveway.
Couple of things. The council with the house that you're talking about there on West Lake, that was heard in front of, we were here. And that's coming back, so everybody knows, to the council with some more research and actual times and things of that sort. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be on October 8th.
Okay. And also, last night, there was someone in here at 1755
Yeah,
Barstow Boulevard.
property owner Robin Cruz.
Okay. He wanted a reduction in the fine and the council said no. So, we do the best we can to give everybody breaks and the council seems to be supporting us.
And I just want to add too, I know that the council members didn't ask you to speak at the last minute, and that's up to them what they want to do. But you could always send them a letter or call them to discuss the case if you need to.
Individually or?
Yeah. Not as a group. You can contact one council.
As a board member.
As a
Right,
board
Bill?
member?
As far as the fine or fine reduction,
Lien.
lien reduction,
Yeah, so at the last council meeting, well, not this week, but the one before that, 7730 Westlake Drive was there to ask for lien reductions. And so the town council didn't ask the board members that were present to speak, but the board members could reach out to the council members individually before a meeting and talk to them about the case.
Yeah, that's correct. Just individually and one at a time, both ways.
Sunshine law.
Right.
Okay. 'Cause, yeah,
Or maybe, maybe what you could do is you can, maybe Paul, you can write a letter on behalf of the board, maybe, and I can always put that as part of the agenda packet too, if you would like, because I always write a memo, for the case, so I could attach it to my memo if you would like.
I think it would be prudent for us to do that. I don't know how you feel, but
I have a question. Wes, you stated, I think, that in that one lien reduction request, that they wanted more information related to the history.
Right.
So does that mean that we're not supplying them, in their opinion, enough information regarding
No, I think they had enough information about the history. The issue was more about calculating, like when they would start calculating. There was some arguments when it should start, and because the deed, they said that they took possession of the property. I think it was in May, was it 2021? I can't remember. And then I think they just wanted the fine to run for 30 days after that. Well, we did not calculate that. Yeah, so I think they didn't want to be responsible for the portion of the fine that was under the other owners, the previous owners. So there was that too. I know there's an issue where the deed, I saw that it was recorded in May, but it was signed, I think it was in March. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means that, and maybe Bill would know.
Well, if it's delivered, the title would transfer when the deed's delivered to the grantee, whether it's recorded or not. I think, and I wasn't at the town council meeting, but I think the issue was there was a question of when this group that was asking for the reduction actually took title and when they had the ability to go into the property and maintain it and that sort of thing. And that's the additional kind of information that they were looking for. Because you remember the former owner was in an assisted living or nursing home and all that sort of thing. So that's the kind of information I think they're looking for.
I think the present owners wanted to only be charged for when they got the deed in May or July, whenever it was, like 30 or 45 days.
Yeah.
Even though when the daughter of the lady that was in assisted living laid claim to the title of the property, it took a year or two to get them straightened out, and they finally got the judge or the court to give the property to the present owners. But I think the present owners owned it before the daughter or this relative came up and said, wait a minute, I want to have the property. So
they were fully aware also of the lien in advance. And I don't know if it's an investment situation or what. And I think that they were hoping for a total reduction only going by 30 days. But in the line of work that they're in, that's part of the cost of doing business.
Right.
And and the reason why the council they wanted to go off the date because they didn't know the exact dates to, they're thinking of a reduction. The mayor had mentioned 10%. Personally, I hope that they don't do any reduction. And they're in the business of flipping homes.
Mhm.
So bottom line, they were well aware. And we had someone on our council, someone on the council, town council, who has that experience and knew exactly and called them on that. So, there was three of us there. It was Wes, myself, and Deb Moody. But we were not called upon, which I thought very interesting. And we were ready to. I wasn't sure if we had the right to do that at that time or if they wanted us to do it. So, but we're now here in a in public on TV and video, so let's just be open about it. But
Maybe one thing that you could do also next time is you can fill out a public comment card, just so they know that you would like to speak about that property.
Yeah, certainly you'd have the ability to speak.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Or you could
I
raise
think
your
if I was
hand.
there, which I was out of the state, I would have gone and spoken to the issue. And I would say in the future, if any of us feel like, well, we're not being called upon, but
just to speak
we
up.
have information that we'd like to share or opinions, we should do that.
We were ready to, actually. I think that was the very last item
Yes, it was.
that
It was a
evening.
long
There was
meeting.
3 meetings and we stayed for the whole entire thing, waiting to be called upon.
Mhm,
I was actually surprised that we were not.
mhm.
Not it, just asked, and it being that we've been involved with that case, I think, from the beginning.
Well,
So,
There's also part of that is the memo you sent out to us, that there was I guess they had said, we'll repair the house if you get rid of all the liens. Did I read that wrong?
The request that they made to the council.
No, it was on Lake Lecturer's letterhead. I didn't bring it with me, but they said something to the effect that you wipe out all the liens, we'll fix the house.
Yeah, that's what, it wasn't their request. That was their initial request that they would come into compliance after the liens are removed. But I guess they changed it.
and I literally left, when I left that evening, after I said bye to all of you and walked outside, I was confronted by the 2 individuals. And basically they said, listen, they were upset. It's like, well, we'll just let it foreclose. I'm like, you knew about the liens, but I left it at that. But, obviously I don't understand. I don't understand what they expected, especially when they've done this type of business before.
Right.
So I think they're just unfortunately playing victim, or they even say, oh, we're going to saying that they're going to give it to a family member and homestead it, and which it'll be home, but they're just using words in a way that I don't think it's their true intentions. And I just want to make this code enforcement board and make it official that it's here in public. Because I think it's a serious case of what's going on. And I think there's other things going on with that case that I don't think we're allowed to talk about. So you tell me if I'm allowed to, that I guess there's,
I'm thinking not.
I think the chief said there are other things that they can't. discuss.
Correct.
Right.
so there's a lot more to it.
That house is definitely a flip potential. Absolutely.
Are there any other issues or comments about anything else?
Other than code enforcement board members coming late, that's my apologies.
You're
folks.
you're totally forgiven, Jerry. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
all
for listening. I'm sorry for what you're going through.
Please keep our police.